The reaching for longevity, for longer lifespans, is a legitimate desire that will be manifest. But at the same time, it's a distortion, especially for those who are trying to avoid death, who believe that beyond death there is nothing, and who believe that physical reality is the best game in town. Those people are living under massive distortion. Even so, their desires will be realized, and they will realize how boring it gets to be in physical reality after a couple hundred years. Welcome to another episode of AI and Spirit. This is the YouTube series where I talk about the convergence that is occurring between the technological singularity and spirituality. The technological singularity is actually a spiritual inflection point. It is a period where humanity has realized enough alignment to its ideal future, that the ideal future is now manifesting through hundreds, if not millions, of individuals who have come into the world to prosecute the unfolding of this manifestation for the rest of us. And in this episode, I say this all the time. You guys must be getting tired of me saying this, but this is so good. In this episode, I want to talk about a subject that is quite common in technical spaces and in the minds and communities of people who are following technology and who are seeing the future unfolding. That is the technological singularity. And that is the quest for longevity or immortality. Whether that's immortality within our current carbon life forms or some sort of a digital upload into the metasphere. I'm going to talk about why people in the tech space, why they're so passionate about longevity, life extension, and ultimately immortality, and why that's a distortion. That's what I'm going to talk about in this episode. So let's just get into it. Well, let's first talk about why people are so passionate about life extension, longevity, and immortality. And just as a caveat, I once wanted the exact same thing. Back in the 80s, maybe it was the late 80s or early 90s, there was an organization, I still believe it's around today, called Alcor Foundation, which its mission was to enable people to either have their entire bodies frozen or their heads frozen, so that in a future where technology is dominating and many of the problems that make longevity a problem have gone away, you could be rethawed and then live your life enjoying the longevity technology that has emerged since your head was cut off or your body was stuck in a vat of liquid nitrogen. I gave that up a long time ago, mainly because of the spiritual unfolding that ultimately became the positively focused framework. I realized what I'm going to tell you in this video. So my point in bringing that story from the 80s up is that I understand where people are. Life experience is so tantalizing, physical life experience I'm talking about, and the linear nature of the way our senses create time. There's no real such thing as time. Time is simultaneous, and it's past, present, and future, and alternate dimensions are all happening at the same time. But because we have physical senses, our physical senses kind of force us into perceiving what I'll call linear time, or what Seth calls clock time. Because of our perception of time through those senses, and because of the tantalizing nature of physical reality, it causes human beings to want to stay here as long as possible. And when you think about the idea of dying, if you don't have an accurate perspective of what that process really is, and especially if you fear it, then it's highly likely that you're going to want to live longer than the time you think you have. And that's the other thing that is behind this longevity stuff is that people believe that they don't have enough time in physical reality to enjoy what they want to enjoy. And so it makes sense that human beings, myself included, would want an experience of a longer lifetime, especially if that longer lifespan can be lived in a youthful body. And this is what is predominantly, I believe, inspiring technologists, futurists, transhumanists, and others to aspire to longer lifespans. Number one, their desire to live longer because they believe themselves to be stuck in linear time that has an end. Number two, there's another one I didn't add. I'll add that now. Number two, that many of these people are atheists, and so they don't believe that there's anything after their death. They believe there's like nothing or annihilation. Number three, they're afraid of death, and so they want to put off that encounter as long as possible. And number two, they think that life experience is so hunky-dory that they want to see what comes next. Most of that is a distortion. And yet, there's some validity to the life extension, lifespan extension, longevity, immortality, belief constellation. There's some legitimacy behind it, because ultimately, even though these people who are wanting longer lifespans, even though they may not realize this, what they're actually reaching for is an expanded sense of consciousness. An expanded sense of consciousness that has them realize that they already have what they're reaching for. I'll explain that in a moment too. So it makes sense that if you look around physical reality and you see all these people dying, especially seemingly by accident, but there are no accidental deaths. In fact, Seth loves to say that all death is suicide, including mass deaths. They're mass suicides. But when you look around physical reality and you see all these people dying, especially by accident, and you believe that accidents happen, there's no such thing as an accident, but if you believe that accidents happen, then you combine those two beliefs, you could get to a place where you want to avoid accidentally dying. And if you also believe that after death there's nothing, you'd also want to put that off. And if you also believe that the future is going to be exponentially better than the present, and that you've seen that the present is exponentially better than the past, you're going to want to aspire to live as much of the future as you possibly can. But this reaching for a longer lifespan is more about an unconscious desire to realize what we all really are than it is trying to create an experience of a longer lifespan. And the thing that this desire is pointing to is the fact that we already are immortal. There's no such thing as death. Death, the thing we call death, is simply a transition. It's a moment that occurs when the individual spiritual being, the eternal spiritual being, realizes everything it came to realize in this life experience and then decides to transition into a greater experience. Here's the thing, guys. There is a tremendous experience that's going on beyond the limits of physical life experience. And this is why the dream work in the positively focused framework and the meditation, the spiritual meditation aspects of our meditation practice that allows us to experience alternate dimensions, that's why these things are so important, is because they enable a conscious being ensconced in a human form to realize the depths and the breadths and the eternal nature of their consciousness, which is not just experiencing this physical reality, but infinite numbers of alternate dimensions, futures, pasts, and presents, all throughout the multiverse. I'm not just speaking comic book language now. These alternate dimensions, these alternate pasts, presents, and futures exist, and we all are experiencing them simultaneously as part of our eternity. And these experiences, they never began, and they will never end. And the cool thing about being the eternal beings that we are is that we have the inherent potential to be able to perceive all of what I'm talking about. So beyond what seem like the limits of physical life experience, beyond that, there is so much more. And when you get into a mindset where you do not know what I just said, and you cannot even have faith or even belief in it, it just seems preposterous to you, then of course you're going to want to try to find a way to stay in these bodies longer than you intended when you came into physical reality, right? Because every death is a suicide, which means every moment that someone checks out of physical reality is a moment of their choosing. And that choosing usually occurs before the person comes into physical reality, before they are born in a physical body. But a lot of times it happens as a result of obliviousness, choices they make that then are reflected back to them in their physical reality that are disappointing or sad or in other ways negative. And then that singular event, because of momentum, becomes multiple events until suddenly the person is so despondent, helpless, or powerless feeling that the only rational explanation, the only rational alternative is to check out of physical reality. But when you check out of physical reality, whether it's because of how I just said or you have fulfilled your purpose, where you end up is back into the fullness of all that is you, where you realize your eternity. And in realizing your eternity, you also realize that this life experience in physical reality was always meant to be temporary as a way of facilitating our eternal expansion. Everything I'm saying is accessible to you, viewer. Everything I'm saying is accessible to you. All of my clients are having the experiences that I'm talking about in non-physical that allows them to gradually come to the realization that they are eternal. Now, all desires in physical reality are realized by the desirer when that person releases resistance. And that's why we're beginning to see longevity therapies and artificial intelligence enabled solutions which have humanity on the cusp of a radical extension of lifespan. But even with that radical extension of lifespan, everyone's going to experience the transition humans call death. Because we're not meant, no one in physical reality chose before they came here to remain in physical reality indefinitely. This is a training ground. It's a school. It's a practice arena. We come in here to have a specific experience which facilitates our expansion. And then after we have completed that experience, we return to the bigness of what we are. And what we are is so much more satisfying and delicious and enjoyable and expansive and up to important things than what we do here in physical reality. Now don't misunderstand me. What we're doing in physical reality is extremely important to each of our individual and collective expansion. But there's so much more happening beyond physical reality that is so much more valuable and important. And it has to be, because the thing in which physical reality is occurring, so physical reality is occurring within something. That thing that it's occurring within has to be bigger and more powerful and potentially more satisfying than what physical reality is, because it contains physical reality. And when you have the experiences my clients are having in the dream state and in meditation, you get a taste of what's happening in that larger container. And then you begin to ask yourself, if I'm more than human, what am I? And if it feels so good to tap into that aspect of me, how much gooder can it get? And then you start asking yourself, is everything really possible? And then you start reaching for things that people call impossible, like shapeshifting or teleportation and such. Now, there's nothing wrong with human beings wanting to live forever. If you've listened this far, you get a sense that that's a distortion. No one is going to live forever, not in physical reality, because this is a temporary experience. It's meant to facilitate your eternal expansion. So no one's going to live forever. Everyone will face the transition period that allows that being to return into the non-physical state of being, which is pure positive energy, which is blissful, joyful, love-filled, eternal existence. And there's nothing better than that. And in that state, we continue our expansion into becoming the gods that we are. So, I recently watched an episode of the Moonshots, those 3 or 4 guys that get on YouTube and talk about the dynamics that are creating the future, not the spiritual dynamics, not the fundamental spiritual dynamics that underlie physical reality, the things I talk about here on my channel. They're talking about the development of AI and entrepreneurship and robotics and these kinds of things and this technological singularity. And in the episode I watched, they quizzed themselves on how receptive they were to certain modalities, technological modalities, some of which they talked about would radically extend life experience. And one of the guys, Salim Ismail, who's from India, had said something like, and I think I might grab the clip so that you can hear him say it, but he says something like, the data show that there's validity in reincarnation, and so I choose not to want to live forever. And then the guy from MIT, the white guy, he says, I don't want to be reborn as an ant, and that's why I want to live forever, basically is what he says. The second guy is living under a massive distortion because he doesn't understand how expansion, eternity, and reincarnation works. But Salim, and I suppose it might be because of his predilection, his leaning toward reincarnational theory because of his ethnic past, Salim is understanding that there's definitely more to life than physical life experience. But it was entertaining for me to listen to them go through this quiz that they went through because it really clarified some of the distortions that people are under when they want to reach for living in physical reality for eternity. It's just not going to happen because there's too much going on in non-physical that calls each and every one of us into being. And it is what's going on in non-physical that has us come into this physical reality as a way to learn to more effectively and efficiently and joyfully enjoy what's going on in non-physical. This is a training ground. It enables us to learn that we create our reality. Physical reality is the place in which we learn that we create our reality. And it also is the place where we learn how to create our reality, while at the same time soothing some of the negative momentum we've built up from past lives so that we can expand more into what it is that we are. So it's a paradox, as most things in physical reality are. The reaching for longevity, for longer lifespans, is a legitimate desire that will be manifest. But at the same time, it's a distortion, especially for those who are trying to avoid death, who believe that beyond death there is nothing, and who believe that physical reality is the best game in town. Those people are living under massive distortion. Even so, their desires will be realized, and they will realize how boring it gets to be in physical reality after a couple 100 years. Life is so good. When I say life is good, I'm talking about physical reality predominantly, but underneath that, I'm also talking about the life that you are. You are good, and you are eternal. And the more you orient yourself to the eternity that is you, not only do you get gooder, but so does your life experience. And then when you tap into that which you are in the bigger picture, while being in your physical body, then you become delighted with life. Because in realizing that you're much more than your physical body, and when you realize that you're eternal, not limited to this one life, then you relax in this life. And when you relax, you can smile more, you can laugh more, you can relax more, you can be more easy, you can be more happy with others, you can have more fun. And when you do all of those things, you're more aligned with all that you are, which means that you begin to realize more of what you're wanting and less of what you're not wanting, because all of those pleasurable feelings are emotions telling you that you are in alignment with the probable future realities in which everything you want exists, which means those future probable realities must at some point become your present. Oh, it's so good to know that. Want to know more? Want to know how to realize what I'm talking about here? Want to see what your future probable realities look like? Want to tap into those alternate dimensions where you're simultaneously existing and have the joy and epiphanies and astounding experiences my clients are having? I've put links in the description of this video. I think I'm putting one in the comments too once it publishes, where you can test drive a session with me. And there's another link in there where you can become a client if you're ready. Whether you do or not, I'll see you in the next video.